Whenever you're ready, George.
Okay, thanks. Well, first of all, we hope that we've all had a happy holiday season, Christmas, most recently Hanukkah before that. This is the week for Kwanzaa. If anybody is celebrating that recognition, and of course, New Year's coming up in a couple of nights. And as I'm fond of saying, if you're a Jerry Seinfeld fan, Festivus for the rest of us. So it all kind of comes together this time of the year. I have two things I just want to touch on. I'll give you the good news first, and then, of course, the COVID news to follow. The good news is that the county government has finalized our 2022 county budget, and it involves a significant tax cut for those who own property in Westchester County. It depends on where you are in the different communities. And each community is a little bit different because of the assessment roll and because of the equalization rates. Since the river towns with different villages are all within the town of Greenburgh percentage is the number. In the last 2 years, we had a very modest 1% decrease in county property taxes each of the last 2 years. I don't have the number in front of me for Greenburgh this year, but it's going to be larger than that. So it'll be the third consecutive reduction in county property taxes for those who own property in the town of Greenburgh, anywhere in the county, I might add. The county portion of your property tax bill, if you pay property taxes, is a small portion. The smallest portion that you pay is to your village and your town. If you're in a village, the town is the smallest portion. The village follows that. Village and town together slightly smaller than the county. The county, village, and town together is 1/3 of your total bill. 2/3 of your total bill is your school district. So when I indicate that we may have as much as a 5% decrease this year in property taxes, it's 5% on your county portion of taxes, but that's the portion that we control. So the town and the county are both on calendar year fiscal years. So budgets go into effect 1st of January. They get voted on usually in December. We never have late budgets at this level of government as you have had in the state. The state, the village, the school districts are all mid-year budgets of different durations of time. But as we start the new year, the town budget and the county budget both have been put to bed. And so the good news is another tax cut ahead. Now, that's not the only thing that we do in government, is just levy a tax. We're doing a host of different programs and services. I won't use this forum to get into them, but at some point in time, and Mary Jane Shimsky will want to cover this as your county legislator, but we've funded childcare expenses in the county at a much higher level than we have before. We have instituted now mental health crisis response teams to complement local police response when we have certain kinds of incidents of individuals that are having a mental health episode. And hopefully that mental health professional that responds can de-escalate so we can avoid some of the tragedies that have happened in various places around the county, and a host of other things, capital improvements, completing the South County Trailway, yada, yada, yada. But so that's put to bed, and that closes out our county year. But the tracking of the COVID situation is really, our front page news story right now. We're all aware that in the last couple of weeks, Omicron has become the dominant variant in the United States, and it has lived up to the advanced billing that it is far more transmissible than the prior Delta variant or the original, which I guess they call now the Alpha variant of the disease. And to give you just a little bit of numbers, I don't want to drown you in them, but we have seen an increase in active cases that have just skyrocketed beyond what we've seen before. We define an active case as a person that's tested positive within the last 2 weeks, meaning that you haven't gone through a full 2 weeks, 10 days. Now they've even changed that to 5 days in certain cases, but you haven't gone through the full 2 week period of time in which your immune system has defeated the disease and there's no trace of the disease in your body. So if you're ill in that 2 week period of time, you are considered having an active case of COVID. And right now we have an incredible 21,975 active cases, people walking around Westchester County out of our population of 1 million, 21,975 that have an active case of COVID as we speak today. The highest amount that we had prior to this outbreak of Omicron was 12,000, which came in the first month, the first 40 days of the infection back in April of 2020. A year ago, we had a spike around the holiday season. We got up to 11,500, and that number got down to less than 200 active cases back in June. And then, of course, we saw the Delta variant come along. That raised the numbers, and it maxed out at about 5,000, a little under 5,000 cases, and it shrunk during the early part of the fall. Omicron has hit the scene, and yesterday alone, 3,100 positive cases, tests of Omicron in one day. The day before that, 2,000 cases. Then we've had multiple days of 1,100 cases. We had 1,900 cases last Saturday, 2,800 cases the Saturday before, 23, the Friday right before Christmas. So this thing has been spreading like wildfire, and 21,000 active cases is well above any prior peak that we've had. Now, it's also true that the disease has not been as severe to those who test positive if you've been vaccinated. And the numbers that show us is that double vaccination and a booster shot are what reduces the situation, unless you have some underlying health issue. If you're double vaxxed and boosted, but you have an underlying health issue, you still then have to be concerned about whether or not this is going to affect you hard. The next number we look at after that is number of people that are hospitalized. And at this point, we have 281 people hospitalized for COVID. Now that number is much lower than we've had at other period of peaks, but it has jumped up dramatically. Just 2 weeks ago, we had 119 people hospitalized. So 2 weeks later, 281. And that number has been rising steadily day after day. The number that we all focus on is how many hospital beds do we have in Westchester County? If you eliminate all other people using the hospitals, we have 2,700 hospital beds in the county. We've got 160 ICU units. And we never did reach that maximum, even close to that maximum of 2,700. Our prior peak, again, first month of the infection was about 600 people hospitalized. So we still stayed well below a quarter, well below a half, almost in the vicinity of a quarter. At 281 was still low, but the increase factor is very concerning. And most of those cases, the vast majority of those cases, are people that are unvaccinated. So what we're watching is an epidemic that's hitting everybody, but really severely affecting those that are unvaccinated. So we've had this tremendous increase in the last 2 weeks of hospitalizations. The worst statistic is fatalities, because at the end of the day, however sick you get, if you survive it, then we've survived the pandemic. We've lost, in the last 2 weeks, 28 people to COVID. In the 2 prior weeks, we lost 8 people to COVID. So that is a significant jump up from where we were. We had, in the beginning of the pandemic, before there was vaccinations, a terrible amount of people dying. 2/3 of everybody that died from COVID, we've lost in the aggregate 2,400 people in round numbers. We lost 1,700 people in the first 10 months before there was vaccinations. Since vaccinations, the death fatality rate has dropped dramatically. But that death rate is rising over the last few weeks because of Omicron. Where we are in responding to that as a government, we have seen that the governor has imposed a mask mandate for all indoor circumstances unless there's a proof of vaccination in place. Now, proof of vaccination is not mandated in Westchester County or any place else in the state outside of New York City. So a restaurant might have a vaccination mandate, a building, a company might have a vaccination mandate. Got to show your vaccination card before you come in. And if you have that, then you do not have to mandate mask wearing. But what I think we're seeing with Omicron is it's probably a good idea to wear a mask whenever you're in close quarters with other people. Simple as that. Except for the people in your family. We're all in our various homes right now. So these are the people we live with. It's a different scenario. And what we have done as a county government is to implement the mask mandate. We use the word implementation to try to get more people to do it. As you know this, both Sherry and Ellen had the delivery of some masks, which the chamber has distributed, and we'll get more masks as necessary to try to make sure that every merchant that wants it, that has public contact facing, has masks sufficient for their personnel and to make available to anybody that walks into their business or their establishment. So that, and then also posters that you can post in the window. You can always make your own, but we have something you can paste up on the wall saying it is a mandate. What we have not done is sent out the police to enforce it, stopping people on the street. I think we all understand that there's 2 major problems that come with that. The first major problem is it's a confrontational moment. and confrontation, the people who are not vaccinated and not masked. And it's a small percentage in the county that are unvaccinated, but nonetheless, they're very aggressive about their unvaccination status. It does not appear that a dialogue with them changes their point of view. And then we would put our enforcement people in a constant position of conflict, direct conflict. The second thing, for those of you who have businesses, you have a bit of a Hobson's choice. There are people who don't want to come into the business unless they know everybody's vaccinated. People that don't want to be eliminated from coming into your business if they are unvaccinated. So it creates a stressful situation. It really depends on the business, depends on the clientele of the business. A restaurant that serves a certain clientele is not the same as a restaurant that serves a different clientele. But from our standpoint, what we do intend to do is enforce more aggressively those entities and individuals that willfully will not follow it. So we're going to work on the basis that most of us are in a desire to follow the mandate, but that at this stage of the game, it's those that willfully object to it, assert that they don't have to follow this legal order. We've had county executives from some of my neighboring counties make that statement. Their statement is illegal, but it's up to the governor to enforce it in counties that object to her authority. We don't object to her authority. We're trying to implement it as best as we can. And I would say my observation is in most settings, people are wearing masks where appropriate. And I think that's the common sense reality of Westchester. That's why we have such a high vaccination rate. We've made vaccination easily available in a lot of places. And we have over 94% of people who've had at least one vaccination shot, over 85% double vaxxed. I don't have numbers on the booster. The booster numbers are rising, but, and I'm almost finished with this whole narrative. But what we've seen in the last 2 weeks is a tremendous demand for testing. And we have now had to take resources devoted for vaccination to try to deal with this demand for testing that far exceeds the access that we have to sufficient number of tests, whether it's PCR testing or even home kits. We have the Royal We in Westchester County, which includes all sources, hospitals, urgent care centers, the county center, local locations, and so forth. We've tested almost 200,000 people in the last 2 weeks, which is a fifth of our population in terms of tests. The demand exceeds the supply threefold. We had last week available 40,000 home test kits that the state gave us. We immediately disseminated it to local governments, to local police, fire, EMS, and to healthcare facilities like Open Door, et cetera. They went like this, 40,000 tests like the snap of a fingers. So we've now opened up the county center as of yesterday, as of today, to have additional testing. It's already open for some vaccinations, booster shots. Now we're doing both vaccinations and testing. And we had a certain amount of tests available to us working with a company called Quadrant. And we opened up X number of slots, a couple hundred slots a day, bang, they're all filled up. So, and while people are anxious to get testing, the county does not generate tests. We don't create the tests. We generally obtain them from the state or the federal government. We're going to buy some testing, but I have to tell you, the demand for testing now is open-ended. And we could have 5 times the amount of tests that we have right now, and that probably wouldn't satisfy the demand because people want to know before any movement, any action. New Year's Eve party, I want to know everybody's tested. We don't have it. And we're going to go see grandma a couple of miles away, or somebody's coming over the house, boom, I want testing. And that kind of demand for testing has not been seen at any point in time during this crisis. So we're trying to respond as best as we can. It's difficult and frustrating. And of course, what happens is if you get access to the test, you get the results you want, you're happy. If you don't get it, then you're angry. And if you're angry, then you're verbal and vocal about it. And that's what we're facing, this constant pressure and frustration that not enough tests are enough, and ditto with vaccinations. But that is where we are at right now in the county government. Good news on the tax front and on the budget front, dealing with the COVID realities of the moment. I don't anticipate any shutdowns of business. I don't believe the governor is prepared to go in that direction at this stage of the game. Governor has talked about wanting to do test and stay for schools across the board to try to avoid school districts going remote. A couple of districts have made the decision on their own to go remote. Mount Vernon did. I think we all know that remote learning is not effective learning, but each place is a different place. And if the spread of the disease is like wildfire, then in some cases there's no choice. And each school superintendent is trying to make those decisions as best as they can. So I hopefully that gives you as full an update as I can give you. There may be some elements of this that Shari or Ellen or Mayor Elmacroft can provide, but we go forward trying to do the best we can every day with this pandemic. And thanks for being so patient for such a long report.
Thank you, George. We appreciate you coming and giving us these reports and taking the time. Do you have time for any quick questions if anybody
I do.
has them?
Any questions anybody has that I can answer, I'll give it a shot.
Anyone? Pam, did you want to? Are you there? She had a
Hope I
question.
didn't put everybody to sleep, Michelle.
No.
Sorry if I did.
No, that was very, very helpful.
The home, did you mention that the home tests aren't necessarily being reported? We can assume.
I did not mention that, but you're correct. The home tests are not part of the database system. So when I mentioned 180,000 tests over the last 2 weeks, those are the tests that happen at urgent care centers, hospitals, what the county does in any of our locations that get reported into the New York State tracking system. And so you take 180,000, they're more often than not PCR tests. And you add to that whatever the volume of individual test kits. And I couldn't even begin to warrant a guess as to what that is, possibly 500,000 in our county alone. It's hard to say. And people are testing multiple times. They're testing on a Monday, and then they test again on a Thursday to be sure of what their status is, depending on whatever they're doing. So,
Pam, you have your hand raised?
Yeah. I'm hearing some frustration about getting kids back in school and not being able to get the test to show that they're okay. So I'm just bringing that up because
Right.
School starts after the 1st, and I don't know how we're going to address that because we want kids in school if we can or not. I mean, are there plans to close down the schools?
no, well, first of all, I think I just said that the intent is to try to have a program called Test and Stay, which is whenever there is an individual, a kid that tests positive, that those that were exposed to him get tested and they stay in the classroom rather than preemptively quarantining everybody. The protocol historically has been, if you've been exposed to somebody who tested positive in some context, then you yourself should quarantine for a certain period of time. Test and Stay is a change in that policy, and that's the policy that the governor is advancing in order to try to keep kids in the classroom. Now, the question of access to tests that are targeted to school districts is what's happening, outside of what we're discussing now. Everything we're talking about now is tests available for people to go get them if they want them, and individuals want to get their kids tested. Separate and distinct from that, school districts are trying to get commitments from the state of an allocation of test kits that goes directly to the schools that they can then use to implement Test and Stay in their classrooms. And those numbers, given the widespread nature of this infection, are pretty phenomenal numbers. I know that school superintendents are meeting tomorrow morning on a Zoom call. We have generally been meeting with them every week. We took this week off because it was a week off of school. They are now trying to work through that situation. And I assume that there's a woman who's the superintendent of the Byram Hills District, Dr. Jen Lamia. She's the head of the School Superintendent Association right now. And when they have this conversation, she'll get some information out to your local school superintendents, and your local school superintendents will report to their parents. And I assume, Barrett, in your role as a media person, you'll be dialoguing with the various school superintendents, and they'll tell you what the strategies are. As you know, and Nikki will attest to this as far as the villages are concerned, in the river towns, there is a lot of consultation between elected officials, whether they're school district people or village people. So Hastings, Ardsley, Irvington, you're always talking to each other. What are you doing? What are we doing? You may see something happening in Yonkers that isn't happening in Hastings for obvious reasons. The Yonkers district is 27,000 kids. It's a completely different size and scope of a challenge than some of the other districts. So that is why the corridor for information is going to be the school superintendents of the district that the children are in, and how they obtain, what they obtain, and how they make it available. That's the corridor by which people will know, the school setting.
Thank you.
Pam, let me just add one thing to what George is saying. There's not only coordination among the different mayors, so we all know, the number of kits one another has received and what the strategies are and the communications out to municipalities. But there's also communication, for example, between me and the superintendent. So today he gave me the heads up about the situation regarding the protocols that will be put in place early on, and wanted to know how many kits we had distributed, how many masks we have received, all of that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of coordination happening. And I do want to say, while we still have George on the call, that the county has been really quite amazing, I think, for us as municipalities, as well as for the schools, in terms of providing this PPE and making it available for us. The minute the county gets it, we get sent an email, and we then in turn distribute it out to residents, or in the case of the school, as it will do to students. So really very special thanks to you, George, and to your team. I know it's not an easy thing to put logistics together, in 5 minutes as the stuff comes out, but you all have done a really super job.
Thank you, Nikki, on behalf of all the people that do the day-to-day work. This is a week of vacation for a lot of people. It's a nice day to go to museum, but the nature of this thing has got us all at our desks, or at least on the phones all day. So, but thank you, and I'll pass that on to all the people involved. I'll pass it on right now to Sherry and to Helen, who are very much a part of the team and doing all these good things.
Thank you, George.
I just want to add for the masks, if there are still businesses that need masks, just shoot me an email. We're trying to keep it very civilized with how many people go up to the Department of Emergency Services. I'm working with Deputy Commissioner Susan Spear, who's been fantastic, but I also don't want to have an instance where individual businesses are going up there and asking for 20 masks at a time. So we're trying to do it geographically. So far, we've hit a good number of the communities in the county. The first was the river towns, but if you need more, let me know, and we'll just arrange for whoever's going to be able to go up to Valhalla to pick them up. It'll be ready for you. We'll hand them right to you, and it's easy peasy.
The businesses can, if you guys can email Alan at info@rivertownschamber.com, and he'll arrange for them to be available. If we'll figure out who needs to pick them up if we have a group of people. And HUDCO has volunteered to be the pickup location that has good hours.
I wish we had tests as well, but we just have the mask. And I too, in my other role, was thankful to the county for sending the testing kits to Dobbs Ferry, and we gave them all out in 40 minutes. It was very organized and very civilized, and people were very appreciative. But I mean, it was just like boom, boom, boom. And I would say that 20% of all the testing that was done in Westchester was done in my very own house, I think, because everybody here took like 5 tests last week easily, and everybody was positive. So, it is what it is. Of the 5 people in my family, 1 got really sick. 3 of us were completely asymptomatic, and 1 was sick for a few days. So it literally is, it runs the gamut. And I will say that being boosted definitely helps. So if you are not boosted, please get boosted. I hate to sound like a Jewish mother, but it really is the best thing that you can do for yourself and for everyone you love. And it's easier than getting tested at this point. It's easier to get a booster. So I'm here if you need me. Everyone knows where to find me. And if you need something else besides the masks, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. If you need hand sanitizer or gloves or anything like that, although we all know it's born more now, and the cleaning isn't really the thing as much as the masks. So I'm thankful that you're doing this on Zoom, and it is what it is. I can't believe we're still doing this. I was like so excited to just get back to normal, and I guess this is the new normal. So.
Yeah. For those who are in unincorporated Greenburgh, tomorrow Greenburgh is distributing its allocation of masks at Theodore D. Young Community Center, but that's just directed to people who live in unincorporated Greenberg.
Great. Any questions for Sherry or Ellen? Before we move on to Nikki? No? Yeah, I think rapid tests for businesses, obviously if there's an opportunity for that, we would help facilitate that, but I understand that's hard to do right now.
Michelle, I have one question for Sherry and also for Nikki. It's the same question, Sherry, now that you're a trustee. Are you seeing signs in the administration of the village of effects of the COVID thing, the number of people who are out either quarantined or sick? The DPW police?
You know what, so far, we've been doing things on Zoom for the last, few weeks, so I haven't seen, anything. I think I've watched the numbers go up in Dobbs as they've gone up everywhere.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard about like tragedies, so
Yeah,
it's like people are positive, and so everyone's wearing the masks and going on Zoom, but I haven't heard about anything policy wise or anything that's changing or.
Yeah, no, what I'm talking about is people who are unable to come to work, shortages
Yeah.
of DPW staff.
I mean, I don't know if they've closed Village Hall or done anything, because now it's kind of a vacation week. So it's just a weird time right now anyway. But
So Barrett, I can chip in at least on Hastings, which is that we have had some cases where, for example, police officers have tested positive, and so we're having to adjust over time. But there's nothing that isn't manageable by the village at the moment. So it's part of, in the same way as if two people end up being sick, for some other reason, it's more like that than that there's a big change in policy that's needed to be adjusted. But we're definitely monitoring things. And George, since I have you on the phone, maybe we need to go back to more regular meetings with the entire crew.
Be happy to do it.
Yeah, I think that was for everyone. It was something very, very useful in the first few months, the first year, I would say, really, of COVID, where we had regular meetings among all of the municipal officials, and we learned of one another's situation. It was quite comforting, and it was also very helpful to learn the strategies that were being used in other places, and to feel sort of less alone in dealing with all of the drama and challenges that come about as a result of this. So that was something that I thought that George's team put in place that was at least extremely useful to me as an elected official. And I think I actually developed quite close relationships to the mayors of all of your municipalities as a result of it, as well as some other mayors that I didn't know before. I didn't know the mayor of Pelham Manor, but now we're best pals. So, and that's all one of the weird things that one can put down to a benefit from COVID, one of the few things that one can say. So that's a slightly long-winded answer to your question, Barrett, but at the moment, nothing melodramatic, but we're keeping an eye on it. And obviously, things like overtime schedules will have to be monitored carefully.
So until I see you wearing a police uniform, I know things will be okay.
I don't think you want me as a police officer. But yes, I think things are good. Things are good.
Thanks.
All right. So if there's no more questions, I think we could just segue to you, Nikki, to give us a Hastings update, since this is your month.
Thank you so much. And thanks to you, Michelle, and to Dina, and to Elizabeth, and everyone for including me. And also very special thanks to Joanna, who I don't see on the call, but Ellen, who I do see on the call, who have done a really super job as our representatives to the chamber. And of course to Bob, who I think keeps you updated and me updated on a regular basis. And again, as our downtown advocate. And I think a number of you, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's downtown advocate, but in the case of Bob, feel free to covet her. She really is a massive asset to us. And also thanks again to George and Sherry and Ellen and all of the team at the county for all of their amazing support for us. as George mentioned, the elephant in the middle of the room is the soaring number of cases in the COVID cases in the river towns. And what I normally do at the end of our trustees meeting, I thought I was going to stop doing this, but I've just continued the process all the way through COVID, is to give residents an update on the numbers. As George does for the county, I do sort of the micro numbers for our village. And some of it is to kind of make people feel better, and some of it is to alert people when there's a concern. So right now, the total number of cases in the village since March 2020 is 941, and we have 183 active cases. It's really a number that I've never seen before, and it's clear that the virus is spreading at an exponential rate. But as George mentioned, from speaking to residents, it seems as if the cases are milder than earlier in the pandemic. People are getting less sick, fewer are being hospitalized. And the really good news for us is that we have one of the highest vaccination rates in Westchester County. So we have 100% for 1 dose, and we have 90.6% for 2 doses. And the only 2 municipalities that have a higher 2-dose rate than us are Ardsley and Larchmont. So we feel very good about that. We don't know the people who have boosters. The system doesn't show us that yet, but anecdotally, it seems like a majority of residents have a 3rd dose. So I do want to say a special thanks to 2 sets of your members. So one to all the pharmacies who are your members, and the other to Nitin and all of the healthcare providers who have done really an unbelievable job of vaccinating kids and seniors and just all of us in the river towns. They've worked really cooperatively with us in terms of setting up vaccination clinics, and it's really made a big difference, and I think it's helped to get our numbers up. To Shari's point, I think moving forward, what we're all going to have to do is just do our best to learn how to live with COVID, which is such a kind of depressing statement in a way, but I think it's not going away. You know, it's going to be with us, and so that's sort of what we've resigned ourselves to. And what we want to do in our village is to support residents and businesses in the most meaningful way as we deal with this surge, and hopefully there is not another surge, but we said that this time last year. And so until we feel as if we're out of that process, that's sort of the way we're operating. And just to that end, most recently, we've been distributing the free K95 masks and the testing kits given to us from the county to residents. They were unbelievably grateful for those kits. So again, thanks to the county, and as soon as they become available, we will make sure that we get the messages out to everyone, including the businesses, about their availability. So what I've tended to do, I'm not sure what other mayors do, but what I've done when I've come to visit you is really talk about some of the strategies we've used to mitigate the effect of the pandemic on our local economy. And I want to give you a few of those updates kind of in the style that I've been doing it up till now. So one of the things that we did early on was just let everyone know where the businesses stand. We haven't been doing that for residents, but for all of you, you should know that we're doing pretty well in our village and have a remarkably low vacancy rate. And that really is thanks to Bob and thanks to the chamber for getting messages out. So we've now have formal openings of Harm Market. Britt and Sandra opened their shop in July, featuring vintage and artisan made home decor. It's stunningly gorgeous stuff if you have to give a gift to anyone. And they also offer classes, and the space can be rented for dinner parties and events. We also have Little House, and Danielle Lisance opened her shop, and that features women's clothing and home goods in September. And we have a new hair salon. Vera Komashi has opened her shop at 542 Warburton. The entrance is in Boulanger Plaza, and she had a very lovely opening in October. So we're very delighted to have openings during this crazy time. We do still have a few vacant storefronts, which I know you're all very interested in. So 555 Warburton, the former Hastings House. Everyone is asking me about this. The owner is still looking for funding. The owner still says that he wants to complete the project, which was supposed to be an Argentine steakhouse, not for vegetarians, clearly, and also an amazing kind of, I guess, like wine bar-y type thing on the roof, which would be incredible, but it's not happened after many years. So Bob can let you know if anything happens. We think that possibly it's not on the market, but he may be open to people who are interested if any of you hear about it. There are a few properties that are available for rent. So 560 Warburton, that's the former Sterling Bank. 576 Warburton, that's the former LWP Cleaners. 585 Warburton, that's a very small commercial space that's on the Washington Avenue side of the Warburton Bridge. 22 Main, which is the former karate studio, that's available for rent, but the landlord may open a kitchen and bathroom showroom there. That's been said for a while, so we'll see what happens. 45 Main is the former Riolo office, and the building owner is not sure what plans he has. And there are also some buildings that are in transition. So 45 Main, which is the space next to Hastings Velo, is empty and it's being renovated by the owners Ted and Noon, who want to turn it into an artist studio, which will be amazing. They'll have exhibits there, maybe even 3D printing, which will be very cool. 10 Main Street is going to be closing. So Found Herbal will be closing down because the owners moved to Texas, but the plan is to open a French bakery, which we think would be absolutely amazing in Hastings. You're all welcome to come from other places if you want to, and that's scheduled for the spring or early summer. Hopefully that will happen. And then 2 Spring Street, Sarah Hinawi, who is the owner of Purple, has taken up the lease for this space, and she's planning to open a creative consignment pop-up. Purple is still, it's undecided what will happen with Purple. And there also are plans in the offing relating to the funeral parlor on Spring Street, which we hope will materialize. That all has to go to the planning board. So, that's sort of the status of the businesses. And as you know, we've spent a lot of time trying to bring people into the downtown and promoting sales. And so we had a whole bunch of events this summer that brought all sorts of people into the downtown. We had Welcome Back Fridays and Saturdays. We had Hastings on Jazz at the VFW Park Plaza. We had concerts, sunset concerts at McEachran Waterfront Park. We had something which we call South by Southside, which is using the parking lot near Maud's, so part of it became a parklet, and then for a couple of hours in an afternoon, the whole thing became an outdoor space for eating and cavorting and drinking and listening to music outside safely. And that was a big success. And there were a bunch of art openings. We had a repair cafe, the Halloween window painting and trunk or treat all happened. And of course, we have our bi-weekly outdoor farmers market. And the farmers market, I think, as you all know, stayed open throughout COVID. So all of those events were all outside events. Barb spent a lot of time working with the recreation department and others to make sure that they were safe for residents. And we also carried on with those kinds of efforts during the holiday season. So we offered our annual free downtown parking from Thanksgiving to New Year's. We published the holiday shop guide promoting downtown shopping. And of course, we've also been promoting the downtown digital gift cards. And I know you're always very interested in the numbers. We've sold apparently $12,000 worth of the cards since November of 2020 when we launched it, which is great. And 5,500 have been redeemed at 27 local businesses. So we're we're trying to encourage people to not just buy the gift cards, but more importantly, spend the gift cards in the village. And we're regularly sending messages out to people to shop local. And we also had a lovely tree lighting, although I've had some critiques of the tree being too short. It is alive. We'll have to have a big discussion. It's quite interesting what people get upset with at Christmas time or in the holiday season. So we may have to have a slightly larger tree next year to satisfy people who need larger trees. And we had a special guest who arrived in a red Cadillac convertible, always lovely. And we also had an a cappella performance by the Westchester Chordsmen, which I think people really appreciated. And next day we had the Rivertowns holiday trolley, which was really very special. I had a chance to travel on it through various river towns, and Michelle, I think you got off where I traveled with Michelle for a while, but you got off before this happened. But we had some incredibly adorable young men who I thought actually might have been too old to be on a trolley, but they all got off. They sat right next, they got on, they sat right next to Olaf, and they all sang songs with Olaf, which was holiday songs. They were all singing Christmas carols. It was the most adorable thing. So I just wanted to thank you, Michelle, and the team. It was such a lovely idea, and we're so glad that you brought it back. People really needed that. We have lots of great events planned for next year. Hopefully, obviously, they'll all be COVID compliant. And I also wanted to give a shout out to the Brooklyn Training Center, because they're going to be honoring the village for our COVID response at their spring gala, which will be sometime next year. It was going to be on January the 7th, but I think they're turning it into an event slightly later. Actually, Ellen may know more, so she may be able to talk a little bit more about that. So I guess the good news is that according to Barb, our merchants have said that they actually had a pretty good holiday season, and in some cases surpassed their 2019 sales figures. So we're really happy to hear about that. We have continued a number of policy initiatives. The one that it has been a little bit controversial, but we came out with a decision on cannabis. What we voted to do was to opt out of lounges, but we are choosing to allow dispensaries. As you all know, there's no vote on dispensaries because that's the default position. If you legalize cannabis, that's the default position. So we're allowing dispensaries in Hastings, and some neighboring municipalities such as Tarrytown and Greenburgh have made similar choices to us. Sleepy Hollow has voted to allow both dispensaries and lounges. We can talk about this a little bit later, but I'm confident that actually all our businesses will actually benefit from this decision at the end of the day. I see Sherry nodding. I know what her position is on this. And then in terms of grants and loans, last time I mentioned that we received a CDBG grant, which we will invest in improving the sidewalks in the downtown. And since we still have George, another special shout out to the county, because we were loaned Suzette, who has been doing just an amazing job in helping us planning for the Suzette Lopain, who's been helping us do the planning services for that work. And the work will begin in the spring. It's taken a while to formalize that, but that will really, I think, make a big difference in terms of the sidewalks in the downtown. And it's a gradual process. So we've actually applied for funding for more sidewalk work, and we will learn whether we've been awarded that fairly soon, we expect. We did hear, though, that we received 186,000 in grants for a joint comprehensive plan update and to create a local waterfront revitalization program plan. And the downtown will certainly be a feature in those planning exercises. So we will let you know when that kicks in. And finally, I just want to give a shout out to some of our amazing businesses that won awards. So Wild Culture Waffles, Found Herbal Apothecary, St. George Bistro, Refill Room, Observatory Shop, and Harvest on Hudson were all featured in Westchester Magazine's July Best of Westchester issue, which is super exciting. And in May, Borough 6 Wine Bar was included among the 2021 New York new Michelin Bib gourmet restaurants. And we're really, really proud of all of them. So just a final shout out to Bob, our village manager, Mary Beth Murphy, and trustee Georgia Lopez, who is our board point person for the downtown. They've all worked really hard on a lot of these initiatives that I've described to you. And really just to say, first of all, it was just the virus, then it became Delta, now it's Omicron. We will vanquish it ultimately. And just really thanks to all of you for sticking with all of the hard work on your businesses, and let us know how we can support you. And just to close, a happy new year. Please stay safe, and let Hastings know what we can do to support all of you. So if anyone has any questions, let us know.
Thank you, Nikki. Your reports are always so thorough, and there's always just so much going on in Hastings. It's great. We're happy to have a business there, and it's good to have you. Does anybody have any questions for Nikki? Barb, do you want to fill anything else in?
Yeah, just a quick comment. First of all, I just want to say how lucky I am to work with such a supportive mayor, village manager, and board, because that makes a huge difference, and also such an amazing array of merchants. Also, I think it was very comprehensive. The only thing I would add is that we're also ordering benches and garbage pails for our downtown. And that, any update, Nikki, on when you think those are coming? I'm not sure when they'll be here.
I keep thinking they've arrived, and I keep checking. I actually just checked today, and they're supposed to be coming in sometime soon. I'm sure that the minute they arrive, everyone will notice, because what we have is so unattractive. I know Ellen will notice. Ellen, if you can just text me the minute you notice a difference. We did get rid of that tree that was dead outside your shop, I believe, didn't we? Yes, good. Okay, so we've managed to get rid of a few of the dead trees, but we still need to put in the various bits of furniture. So that should happen soon. And I really wanted that to be available for this summer, but we ended up putting in the small bright pink, yellow, blue, green tables and chairs, which I think people really did use. But the new ones will look really spectacular. So thanks for reminding us of that, Bob.
Yeah, and next up, we'll be looking at the bike racks and trying to get that going for the warmer weather as well. I just wanted to add to the retail spaces, the Sterling Bank owner is planning to create 2 spaces there, one larger space, which will have a bank vault in it, which is kind of cool, and one smaller space. So if anyone's interested in those, the landlord is renting those directly, and I'm happy to put anyone in touch. Also, the Spring Street development, the thing that Nikki mentioned, the old funeral home, which will connect up to Greenleaf should those plans be approved and somebody purchase the property as a developer, would be about 10 living units. The current plans, should it get approved, would be 10 living units, and then about a 1,900 square foot retail space with a back patio. So that's a ways off, because someone has to develop it, demolish the building, all that stuff. But just an FYI, if that interests anyone. And Nikki, one thing I thought might interest other people, and me too, is the Lipschultz building and the park up there. I mean, it's not in the downtown, but it's close. And I'm just wondering what the current plan is for that.
So the park is almost done. I am very adamant about putting in a fence around it, because I really don't feel like it should be a deer picnic area after putting $2 million worth of money into remediating it. But technically it isn't, we don't have the certificate of completion to show that it's been fully remediated as a brownfield. So I'm waiting for that to arrive, but it's very, very close to being completed. I think a lot of people are already enjoying it, and the walkways are lovely. The Lipschitz studio, the children of Jacques and Ulla are in, they're very, very very lovely. They're fairly elderly, and there's a completion process in deeding the property to the village that hasn't completely cycled through. So our attorney needs a few more documents before we can say that we legally have possession of it. The minute that we get those, then we will begin the process of creating a committee to look into appropriate uses, as well as to give ideas on raising money for the renovation effort, because the building's actually the carcass of the building, if you like, is in very good shape, but the building actually needs quite a lot of attention. Today I had a very, very interesting conversation with somebody who's quite interested in helping to move the process forward. So I think that the minute we can say it's fully ours, it's like 95% ours, but there's this last little 5% that we need to get dealt with. And in answer to Elizabeth's question, there are about 1,000 masks. So I think they come in kits of 5 or 10 that are at the community center, and they will be distributed tomorrow if anyone wants them. So I think they gave out about 1,500, or close to 2,000 today, and there's about 1,000 left. So it's not 1,000 kits, it's 1,000 actual masks. They come in kind of sets of 5, I think, that you get them, either 5 or 10. So there are a bunch. Yeah, please send your mom to go and get them. Any other questions from anyone?
All right. Well, thank you again, Nikki. And you're welcome to hang out and listen, to our agenda, or, or go, whatever, it's up to you. Moving on to old business, the holiday trolley was mentioned. It was great that it came back. It was kind of a last minute decision. Actually, Christy from HUDCO reached out and asked if she, if she offered up her services to plan the event and organize things, if we could make it happen. And we said yes. So that's just kind of an example of what, we always say is we get told a lot of ideas, but we're all just business owners volunteering and doing things. So when we get someone who's like, I have this idea and I want to follow through with it, we're behind that 100%, and we'll use, whatever resources we have to support them. So, a huge thank you to HUDCO. We had other sponsors as well that we thanked in various ways, but I just, want to make sure everybody knows that event happened because HUDCO stepped up and made it happen this year. So thank you to them. Second item is the Shop Local promotion that we settled on this year is giving away some gift certificates to local restaurants or to local businesses if you submitted your receipts. And we had enough of a turnout to do at least one drawing for that. So that's encouraging and maybe something that we can continue in future years. And I know I briefly mentioned to you, Barb, maybe we can get together. We could do one for a short period if there's a way to verify if people used those gift certificates. Maybe that would be a program we could do to incentivize people to use them in the new year. So we're happy to do a raffle program for that if you're interested. What else? And the last old business item is just that Fabian, who's our membership chair, was able to finally find someone to help us film TikTok and Instagram reel videos for businesses that were interested. We had a very short list of businesses that were interested when we wanted to originally put this together, and had trouble finding someone that would actually implement it and do the videos. We originally wanted to start with kind of a college student because we've been very lucky and had Rosie in the past who's helped us out with other social media stuff, and just could never, nail down one person. So we actually ended up reaching out to a local influencer, and she came in and did the videos for 5 businesses. and they're very good. They're just now finished. And so we're going to begin uploading them to the Chamber's new TikTok, but then also the Instagram Reels. And then when we do that, we can then download the video and share it with the business so the business can do it as well. The premise for those was just a very like quick featuring what the business is about kind of video. And they're very good. Obviously, it was more expensive to have someone, you know, who does this sort of professionally. But it was very good, and there's interest, I think, from the membership committee and from our team of staff to try to figure out how we continue this in the new year, because this is like a level up from that one little Instagram photo feature of a business. It's really a nice thing to have. And Ellen mentioned the influencer that helped us out is Breakfast Date Tiffany. Tiffany is actually a teacher in the city, and she is an influencer on the side, but she does really excellent work. She mainly does food. We know her from the restaurants. She has really great pictures, and she came in and had like lights and 2 different cameras, and like it was this whole setup, and it was really amazing, and it's going to be great. So hopefully we'll continue that next year. New business, we have Instagram takeover we've mentioned and have some interest in. Nick, do you want to give us an update on where we're at with that?
So sorry, can you repeat the last thing I was responding to?
Just an update of because we had some interest and you know where we're at with implementing that.
With the IG takeover?
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, so we have had some interest. We had, I think we're up to 6 different businesses reach out at this point. And what we're waiting on at this point is just the dates to set up. We've reached out to a couple of the businesses. I think we're going to have Sarah from Picture Book be, the first to start down at HUDCO. So that'll be, a familiar face to most of the people here, and a great way to start it off. And then we'll kind of keep moving from there. So if you know anyone who is interested in doing something along those lines, it's going to be a pretty straightforward process. We're going to give you a password for the day that you can take over the account, and then a list of guidelines that you have to follow. But other than that, it'll be free reign to do as you please, and it'll be, I think, a great source of marketing for both you and the chamber. So if you know anyone that's interested, I think that's going to be a great incentive for the future.
Great, thank you. Next item is board and chair positions for 2022. I think they're filling out pretty well, but we still have some vacancies. Bye, Nikki.
Thank you for having me.
So if anybody is interested in taking on a chair or board position for 2022, now is the time to speak up. And I know that we do have like some short list of things and are reaching out to people as well to try and see if there's interest from individuals. So next item, 2022 dues and working membership requirements. So I think that, I don't know, Dina, if you know exactly where we are with the dues invoices. It's okay if you don't, because I know Fabian's working on that.
I think, and don't quote me, but I did reach out to Fabian. I'm not sure, is she away? I think she might be away, but I believe that she has sent out all the invoices at this point. We have, from, popping into QuickBooks, I've seen, income, dues getting paid. There have been a couple of questions, maybe less than a handful, where we had sent out, the full membership dues, and there was a little disconnect between, what the working membership, that's been ironed out for those folks who had questions about it. And so far, we're at a point, I think, where, in about 2 weeks' time, we should, revisit those folks who have not had the time to look at those invoices, possibly because of the holidays, and we sent them out right in the midst of everything. And, I think we need to revisit. So, but I think all of them have been sent out.
Okay. Pam, do you have your hands up? Do you have a question?
I have a question. I love the poster you put out that I could put in my window of my business with a QR code to have people sign up. So it's in my window, and I encourage my patients to use that and sign up for the newsletters. I think it's a very good tool.
Great, thank you. She's referring to, there is a postcard that encourages residents to sign up for the chamber email list so that we can share promotions from our member businesses. It's just a way for us to grow the list and utilize it for our members. So if you want one of those, we have printed copies, I believe, or can make more if we've used them up, and you can put them up in your business. I have one in the window at St. George and Harper's also.
Well, I don't have postcards, but I use the poster.
Oh, okay.
And posted the poster, but the postcards, I would love to get some of those.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is we didn't do like a large size. It's like a smaller size thing that I have in the window. I just wanted to mention also for the dues and the working memberships, we have discussed adding back a couple of options for working memberships that we had originally taken away. You'll recall you just had to serve on a committee last year or be a board member to be considered a working member, which is 50% of your dues. This year, we're obviously keeping chairing a committee or being a board member. We're being more specific on the joining a committee part, and it's just helping out because I know that people are worried about time commitment for the entire year. When am I going to have to do stuff? It's helping out with at least one project on that committee. So your working membership would be fulfilled after you helped out with at least one specific project on that committee. Another thing that we're adding back is providing a venue for an in-person event. So we're looking to bring back in-person events when this current spike slows down. That includes our meetings that we used to have in person, as well as some other events. So it's an option to provide a venue for that. Obviously, food and drink, the chamber will be budgeting for. Or even selling tickets depending on the event to cover costs like that. It's really just providing us with the space for it. And then the last one is participating in new member recruitment by recruiting 3 new businesses throughout the year. So you can commit to us that you'll be a working member and you will utilize all of the information that we have to recruit new members and actually go out and physically help the chamber to recruit 3 new members. So that's an option as well. Any questions about working membership? I know we have less people on the call now, but we'll put it out there for anybody that wants to watch the recording also. Let's see. That's it for new business besides our reports. I don't have anything else to report. So we can go to Dina, who will, you want to give us just like a quick update on the budget, where we're at end of year. I know you sent me the Excel. I don't think, we don't have a PDF of it, right?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can distribute that after the fact. So far, I mean, we're actually within budget, partly because we haven't had a lot of in-person events. And we did have a lot of really very, good sponsorships for a lot of the events that we did have. And we had the $17,000 grant come in, which helped us, buffer our bank account, with where we stand going into 2022. So, I mean, there's really nothing to report from the last time we met in November, except that I think everything is looking fine. Yeah.
Great. Good news. Thank you.
Good news. Yeah. I think we'll have more information next month after the membership dues start rolling in and we have a better sense of where we are on memberships.
And what we can spend money on next year.
Exactly.
But we'll be recruiting lots of new members. So it's always kind of a moving target for us, the budget. All right, so moving on to any committee, I know this is end of year and we don't have anything on the calendar, so this is probably going to be pretty quick. I don't think we have anything specific for membership at the moment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick? I think we spent a lot of time on holiday promotions, and now we're kind of taking a breather and regrouping, getting ready for the new year. I know we don't have anything from minority owned or tourism. Women in business, nothing to say other than she's planning to have a lot more networking events like she did this last year online. And then we're also going to encourage the committee to bring back some of the more social in-person women's networking events next year. So keep a lookout for dates for those kinds of things. Village reps, nobody's on here from Ardsley. I don't think we have a report from them either, right? Alan?
No, but I'll add some details for, this is a film screening that 2 organizations are working on. So I'll just add the details in the chat room.
Okay. Dobbs Ferry, there's a note here for me. Ribbon cuttings, in December, we had ribbon cuttings for one ribbon cutting for new business. We were going to have one for Look Dine in Cinema, but their construction has been delayed, and so that keeps getting pushed back. It was going to be for January, and now it's a little bit open-ended. They're not quite sure when their final open date is going to be, but we did have one for Crespo. Whiskeys and wines. Patty, do you want to add anything else on Dobbs Ferry?
You guys already covered Toronto, which, thanks a lot. Oh, I need to plug in, sorry. Is that better?
I don't think so.
Can you hear me better? Tell me if
That's better.
Yeah, that's with the mic plugged in. Before you were hearing my voice just because I'm very loud. The trolley event was, quite good. And a lot of appreciation to HUDCO for making it more fun. They had wanted to have Santa come, but Santa wasn't really able to do that. So they had a very frightening looking giant rabbit or snow rat. I don't know what it was actually, but it was cute.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah. The event the week before, the tree lighting, I thought was very good. Santa was able to make that, and 200 kids down at the firehouse after watching them turn the lights on. One thing I thought was quite interesting, and it kind of gives you that perspective how you have to be careful what you complain about, because it's the words, it's the way things are done, not necessarily that something's done. We all complain about the wires and all the wires on the lights, the telephone poles and all that stuff. But of course, Dobbs saw a significant increase in wires after the week after the tree lighting festivities, when somehow they put up a whole bunch of additional lights across the street, which I was like, wow, that's really cool. Maybe the first time in about 5 years I've been able to say, wow, that's really cool in Dobbs Ferry. Everything seems to have been festive through the holidays, and we're looking forward to 10, 15 years from now when COVID's starting to slow down and things like that. And I recommend, if you think I'm kidding, everybody needs to watch Don't Look Up. It is a really, really good, very, very dark film. And it's got a message that I think, it was so real. It was just like, did this actually happen?
Oh, real, it was scary. It wasn't even funny. Yeah,
it was. I thought Leonardo was amazingly good in it. I thought he was really good. And Meryl Streep, she out Trump. The buffoonery and the nonsense and the absurdity. It was quite good. So I think an assignment this year is everybody has to watch that and try and figure out how we make our villages more immune to the kind of stupidity that can lead people in the wrong direction.
That's a great way to put it, Patty.
Amen.
And not to bring a downer, but because Kristen's not here, who's the other rep who actually is going to be moving in the new year. So a second rep position is open for Dobbs Ferry. She worked very hard with me and other businesses in Dobbs Ferry to get the parklet fee down in the spring. The parklets, which are those spaces in front of restaurants for tables to go, and we were successful in the spring, but the issue came up again, and the village staff, made certain recommendations, and unfortunately, the Board of Trustees voted by a narrow margin. Thank you, Sherry, for
Yeah, Sherry, you were terrific trying to get it in the right direction.
Yeah. They actually jumped it back up from $50 per space to month to $250 per space per month.
Yeah.
So we have a bit of a uphill battle there, not to discourage anybody else from becoming the rep, but that's a big project that we're going to need to work on in the new year. So we really need a rep to.
And we're gonna-
Sorry, Michelle, I was off for a second. How much is it per space?
$250 per space per month.
Per month. So I
Most
assume that the
have, like-
rationale for that is on revenue lost on parking.
I'm going to be really candid because other people, I don't think Michelle should say it, and I know Sherry shouldn't say it, but it's all on a basic misunderstanding of how numbers work. They took the amount of money that is projected in the budget for all the parking in Dobbs Ferry, all of the parking, not just the downtown. They
Right.
divided that by the number of parking spaces, and they came out with we should be getting $250 a month. But if you just do the math, if somebody comes in and they feed the meter all day long, so that every minute from the time you have to pay until the end, you come out to $8 a day. There's 6 days a week you have things. So it's
Thank you.
$48.
Yes.
It doesn't, you can't do $250 a month. It doesn't add up to that.
That doesn't make it.
It's a crazy thing.
It was, I will be politically correct about this.
Good luck.
I voted against raising the fees, and I'm, on the record for that and quoted in the Enterprise. But I do believe that if more restaurants had wanted it than just the two, there might have been a different discussion. But I think what their rationale also included that we're talking about winter months when there's potential for snow and snow removal and things like that you don't have to worry about in the summer. That was what they said. I'm not defending it. I'm just,
Right.
saying there was a number of factors, and I will say that some of them, like some of the other things that have been voted on, in my opinion, were not based on rational facts. So we have a ways to go, but it was a narrow margin, which makes me think, I have time to get, as they say. Yes.
I think a return to that right in the near future would be appropriate. Last year we made it through the winter. It wasn't a problem, and we have, we don't always take into consideration how a lot of stuff actually gets done. The village was kind of acting like it was a huge imposition on the DPW, but the DPW has a lot of things it needs to do, and we understand that, which is why some of us do things like I do the sidewalks around from Elm Street and Oak Street down to Main Street. And if they haven't cleared in front of the police station, I do that too. That's just, I'm not allowed to ride my motorcycle anymore. So the closest I can get to it is my snowblower. And so I kind of get out there and, have a really good time with my snowblower. But it isn't this perception, which I think seems to be permeating the culture of our village at times, or at least corners of it, that everybody is greedy and looking for something for nothing. It's not that at all. It's trying to say we all need to work together. And that means everybody wanting to work together. So I look at the events that we have and the way that people volunteer their time and effort to the village. So many of the things that the village takes great credit for, the village actually doesn't have to do that much to make happen. So, something like this where it's a problem because they can't use the trucks to clear the snow completely. You're talking of 4 parking spaces, and it's the corner of them. It's like it's 4 corners that somebody would have to spend 15 minutes shoveling out. It's not real. And we're at a time right now in our culture where if we don't get a hell of a lot more real really quick, and dealing with what's, honest and stuff. I have conversations every day with people who are telling me things that I just, is just absolutely not factual, but they are absolutely convinced that they are right.
I think, yeah, I mean, on that note, and to move on to finish things up, I think that the biggest issue for the chamber was that we asked for a discussion, like,
Yeah.
Ardsley, there has not been, there isn't a whole lot going on in Ardsley, so I can't speak to what that relationship might be like. Irvington is very, open whenever we want to have a discussion. Hastings, obviously, we just saw today, like they come to us usually more before we go to them. We asked and asked and asked for a conversation, and we wanted to know what they felt went into this, because we don't know, how much time it takes for the DPW to set it up, or whatever the cost that they're considering, and that got ignored. And so that was really the bigger problem, is that we couldn't have a conversation so that we could have all the facts in front of us and come to a conclusion about, what made sense. So that was the frustration, is that those conversations have to happen, not necessarily that, like, we were standing on that it needed to stay at $50. We kept asking, what is it? Give us the information. And it got to the point at the meeting where, our questions didn't get answered, and we asked them, and the response was, is this a FOIL request? It was just very like, no, it's not. We're trying to have a conversation about what goes into this, so we can make an educated, have an educated discussion about what we think the fee should be. So that, just having more of an open conversation in the beginning, or in the future, is really what the chamber is looking for with the villages. And we had a rep call yesterday, actually, for the current village reps as we go into next year. And we're hoping to actually implement monthly Zoom calls for each village with the reps, and remove some of like these updates that we're doing at each of the chamber meetings, and really focus the updates more on each village, and giving them, each village, their opportunity each month to have like a set aside time where businesses can show up on this Zoom meeting, and discussions can be had. So facilitating those conversations. So something to look forward to. I know we have Hastings. We've gotten all the updates from Hastings, so we can skip over that. Irvington, I don't think, right? We have anything, Alan? No. Okay. So that's fine. It's a quiet week. It's the new year, and I'm sure next month we're gonna be right back into the busyness. Last but not least is I want to welcome, we have one new member from last month, Jessica from Bloomy Dobbs, who is actually she's a cheese shop pop-up. And she's located in Hudco in Dobbs Ferry, and she has a great selection of cheeses and other accompaniments. So if you need anything cheese shop wise, go see her at Hudco in Dobbs Ferry.
And it's amazing, guys.
She has great taste.
She really does.
You can follow her on Instagram at Bloomy Dobbs.
Nice. Where is it inside there?
It's right when you walk in. There's like that counter when you walk in to the right. There's a kind of a lounge area, and so they have two pop-up businesses. They have the bookstore, if you've ever seen her table in there, to the left, and then to the right, Bloomy has like some tables and a little like deli counter refrigerator set up.
Nice. Things. Now I'm gonna get PT and cheese at the same time.
Exactly.
Everything. I'm gonna work it off and then buy some.
You never have to leave Hudco, ever.
That's funny.
So, and now any community news, anything that I missed, anything that anybody wants to add? No? Great. I know we went a little bit over, but I'm really grateful to have George and Nikki on giving us such thorough updates. We really appreciate it. So great.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. Stay safe.
Take care. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Be well.